It is a Sunday night, and we have made it into the month of June. Doug Gann, Joey McWilliams with you here on college football this week. And Doug and I have a few things to talk about, including the Week 0 Thursday and Friday games. We're going to bring those up tonight. Wow, Doug, Week 0 once again. It's neat. I'm wondering if we are still going to be able to say Week 0 in the future. We'll see if the NCAA does make any adjustments, because to this point, nothing new has happened. Oh, one slight thing, we'll get to that as we talk about this. There's a Senate bill going on, Doug, having to do with college football. Go figure.
We'll get it. Yeah, let's not get me on the soapbox just during the monologue too. That would be like Jay Leno or one of those guys getting. Yeah, no, you can't get wound up early on.
Okay, all right, that's fine. I'll give you that. Let me ask really quickly then, since we're there. And by the way, this gives everyone, if you're watching us live tonight, let us know in the chat from where you're watching and maybe who you're going to be cheering for as we get to the upcoming season. Will your team be playing on Week 0? We're talking Thursday and Friday games. Really quickly, Doug, favorite late night. I know late night shows, they're pretty much, I think they're going to be a thing of the past in the very near future. But favorite late night host?
Favorite late night host. This is going to probably shock you a good bit. I'm an Arsenio Hall fan.
Oh my goodness! I did not see that one coming.
Man, I loved it.
Yeah. I recall that. That was let's see, we were in college then.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. I have to say, Johnny Carson, but with the caveat of if there is a very close second, Craig Ferguson. Ferguson, he's the man.
Craig is Craig, and he's a lot of fun to watch. It's how, and he doesn't have a political agenda that he stands for like all of today's hosts.
Yeah,
and that's why I wish they would just get rid of late night television like that. If I want to watch something, we'll watch it. But man, that was it was. You're right. It's a disaster.
Yeah, I think it may be on its way out, but I will say this though, Doug, for your sensibilities in mind, Craig kind of pushed it a little bit, but we did laugh, so we'll That's go right. From there. Justin watching us tonight. Hey, Justin missed the last couple of live shows, but last week, Doug, was a good show, and you know what, Justin, thank you very much. I thought it was fantastic. What a great guest in Jerry Quickle.
Yep. That's exactly right. And our guys get back on campus from some vacations and things at LC. So this week, so we're going to get his helmet for him and already have working on Grambling. So he will sweep the state of Louisiana.
All right. Matt, by the way, good to see you tonight as well, Matt. Now he had a white Mayville State, didn't have a blue one. So we may have to check into
Correct.
That one.
That's right.
You may have to see what the folks up there can do about that one. Anyway, good to see you tonight as well, Matt. And everyone else watching, check in and be a part of the community, and we would love to see that. All right, Doug, let's get into this one really quickly because it's going to take just a little bit. It's not going to take all your night, but I do want to present something really quickly, and they're talking about the bill that is actually it's in committee, hadn't been brought to the floor yet, hasn't been marked up just yet, but the bill is out there, and it is the Protect College Sports Act. It is, at this point, being negotiated. It's a bipartisan thing. Senator Ted Cruz, Republican, Senator Maria Cantwell, Democrat, and you're going to get things that are going to be bipartisan, which means there's going to be, from whatever perspective you have. I'm not saying that you have the right or wrong, or that I have the right or wrong, or that Doug has the right or wrong here, because we don't want to get into the political side of it. But from whatever end of it, bipartisan and compromise means you're probably going to like something. There are also going to be parts of it you probably don't like. Fair?
There's no doubt, and I akin that to the old days when Blockbuster Video was around. And if you'll follow me, and sometimes it takes me a while to get to where I'm going on this, but if you went into Blockbuster Video and you were picking a video alone, you're in there statistically for about 10 minutes. Somebody else comes with you, different choices, different ideas. It balloons up to about an hour that you're looking for something. And when you settle on something, you get home and you go like, this isn't really what we wanted anyway. I like it, but I don't, man, I'm just not, this is why I didn't want to get into it in the intro, and we wanted to wait till we get here because it is so much to unpack. I don't like Congress getting involved in it. I don't like the PCSA. I don't like it.
Okay, and you know what? I understand that, which is one of the great things about this show, Doug. Since you've come on board, is that we do see things a little bit differently. I mean, like you like LSU. So anyway, the point is, just teasing.
Wow, that's right.
Let's get into it really quickly, because we keep hearing that the direction that college football and college sports as a whole, but specifically college football, is going is quote unquote not sustainable. I heard that many times, and some of you all have been able to get some clips. I've watched a lot of the witnesses, a lot of the testimony as some people were brought before Congress to get, to talk to Senators Cruz and Cantwell and more and share their thoughts on things. Coach Nick Saban was one, and I will tell you, I'm full disclosure here, I in my life have been not a Nick Saban fan in the past, and here's why, Doug. Because I remember distinctly in 2006 when he was coaching at Miami for the Dolphins in the NFL, and he said repeatedly, I am not going to be the Alabama coach. Finally, there's a very famous clip where he came out and said, look, I'm just going to have to say it, I'm not going to be the Alabama coach. And within about 7, 8 days, maybe sooner than that, he got off a plane in Tuscaloosa, he was the Alabama coach. That did not set well with me. Now, I get it. I understand the PR behind it. And I'm sure that he may have wanted to say now, because the older Joey, the 55-year-old Joey, as opposed to the 35-year-old Joey back then, understands a little bit more about PR. I get that. But it still sat with me wrong. So I've not been an Alabama fan. Plus the fact that I cheer for the Vols. I'm not an Alabama fan and a Nick Saban fan. Now, with all that out there, Doug, I think he brings a lot of wisdom to the table at this point in time. And he said that whatever should be done should be, and I quote here, nonpartisan. I like that. It's not even bipartisan. This should not have any type of political gain. Politics should have nothing to do with it. You're right. Congress shouldn't have to get their hands in it. They've had to, because the people who are in charge have dragged their feet so long and let this thing go so much into the Wild West that something had to be done. Because, again, this was not sustainable. Shout out to Dave, by the way. Hi, Dave. Good to see you tonight. Thanks for stopping by.
But here's the problem with that, though, Joey, is that when it starts one way and they're started getting it, it could come out of committee one way and it could get voted, and there'll be things in there that'll put in at the last minute and ratified that nobody knows about that's in there. And these things get earmarked in there. I don't trust Congress as far as, well, I can't throw them at all, but you get the point. And Saban, we dealt with him as well, because it was no, I love LSU and we're not going anywhere. I'm going to the pros and that's all. I don't want to coach college. I want to coach at the pros. Then he ends up at Alabama. Yeah. And so that was that you're right about that. But he got out of it for the right reason way back when the NIL was coming around. Yeah. And it was I don't want to fool with this, because it's not what it was. It's not recruiting. It's who's got the most money. But he's spot on. It's got to be nonpartisan, but I don't trust anybody to do it for the right reasons.
I completely understand that. Absolutely. The two groups that we really trust to fix things, Congress and the NCAA. That's T-shirt material right there, Matt. I definitely think that. Well, let's get into it a little bit, because Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, he's among other things he said, and he got on and talked to Paul Feinbaum, which that is just an SEC love fest for the most part there.
That's right.
But one of the things he said was, there's going to be a lot that goes out in social media. People should read the bill for themselves. That's what I've been doing. And if you've never read a bill before, it's not fun. There are a lot of words. I mean, the whole first 5 pages, Doug, are just definitions of what the words are, so you know what they're talking about. Now, I will tell you, I have not read this bill in its entirety. I have read much of it, and I even understood a lot of what I read. There were a couple things I just flat didn't understand and just had to go on and move on with my life, because I'm not a lawyer. And honestly, I really do believe that not everyone who writes these bills or who sponsors and authors these bills understands all the language. Somebody else writes that stuff. But that having been said, let's precursor two things, Doug, okay? One, Pete Bavacqua, who is the AD at Notre Dame, said, I don't think it's good for college football to be a mini NFL. That's not the spirit of college football, because there's been a lot of talk about what's best and what's going to bring in the most revenue. He's right about that. Now, unfortunately, when Bavacqua talked, he actually used the word Super League at one point. Right. And at that point, I think it was Wednesday, social media exploded. The internet blew up, possibly broke, and everyone started talking about Super Leagues. There's not going to be a Super League if this bill passes, because that's actually part of it. We'll get to that a little bit later on. So we need to get Super League stuff out of the way. Now, I realize this is mainly an NAI football show 99% of the time, but this will have an effect on NAI football, so we do need to talk about it a little bit.
Look, if anybody doesn't think so, they're missing out on it too. But that's it's going to have a profound effect on it. It's going to affect kids all around. But something has to happen. I just don't like the government getting involved in it. Now, do I like the Blue Dot getting involved in it and having that much control? No, I don't. But if it's not fixed and if it's not changed, 5-10 years from now, college sports may be an afterthought because it's going to get, there are a lot of corporations that have been ran by people equity that are very intelligent that just go bust.
Yeah. And private equity is getting involved as well. So that's a big deal. Let me give one more quote here, Doug, before we get into the parts of the bill from Coach Saban. Athletes should have real freedom, but a young person should not be trapped in a bad situation. Unlimited transfer freedom combined with pay-for-play incentives has created something very close to unlimited free agency without contracts, without rules, and without stability. And that makes it harder to build teams like you were talking about and harder to develop young people, which is what coaches should do. So that having been said, he's saying, look, it's the Wild West, and something has to be done. So that's very, very important. And I agree, Justin. This is what we've said a couple times on here. The 9 scariest words. President Reagan used this quote. 9 scariest words out there were from the government, and we are here to help. And I don't care what Mondami says. He's wrong. And I did get political, and that's fine. All right, let's move on. By the way, Senator Eric Schmidt from Missouri visited about this. He's one of the senators who's actually working with this as well, Doug. Had a lot of good things to say. And one thing he was saying is that pooling media rights is not mandatory, it's voluntary. So let's get into what this is all about. But first, let's bring something else in really quickly, because the bill is out there. We're going to look at a couple of points on there. But you know what? If this bill gets passed, Doug, there are going to be some people who don't have as much control as they once did or may now.
Correct.
So here we go. Joint statement from the SEC and the Big Ten. If you can't read that, let me read it to you really quickly. The Big Ten Conference and the Southeastern Conference support a sustainable national framework for college sports, one with an effective transfer portal, clear eligibility standards, and protections and benefits for student athletes. While we appreciate the leadership of Senators Cruz and Cantwell in pursuing these shared goals, we do not support the Protect College Sports Act as drafted. The bill leaves critical issues unresolved. It does not meaningfully preempt the patchwork of state laws or provide the protections needed to make and enforce consistent rules, both essential to long-term stability in college athletics. It also shifts ongoing rulemaking to Congress, limiting the ability to adapt quickly as the landscape evolves. Rather than reducing litigation, the bill likely expands it without offering clear alternatives for dispute resolution. Finally, the bill alters the House settlement revenue sharing framework in a way that may result in fewer student athletes receiving direct revenue share payments. We are committed to working with Senators Cruz and Cantwell and other members of Congress to improve this legislation so that it can provide lasting stability for college athletics. All right, Doug, let me say everything really quickly, get it out of my system, and then I'll give you a chance to say that. They do not support the PCSA as drafted. Doug's already said it's going to get marked up anyway, and then someone's probably going to try to add on some kind of earmark. That's not good any way around. It's going to be a little bit different. I think this statement is disingenuous for a number of reasons. Number one, it does not meaningfully preempt the patchwork of state laws. That's actually in the bill that it does. It provides federal law, which will override the state and local laws. So that is a non-statement right there. It's so I think that's disingenuous. Number two, it shifts ongoing rulemaking to Congress. It really doesn't, but limiting the ability to adapt quickly as the landscape evolves. If you had adapted quickly as the landscape evolves, we wouldn't be in this mess right now. The NCAA or somebody else would have actually adapted quickly instead of letting this go on and on. That is disingenuous as it is. Rather than reducing litigation, the bill likely expands it without offering clear alternatives. Actually, there are in the bill ways to limit litigation, and it talks about that in the bill. It says likely expands it. That doesn't mean it does. And then finally, this bill alters the House settlement revenue sharing framework in a way that may result in fewer student athletes receiving direct revenue. They didn't say it was going to, just said, well, it might, so we're mad at it. So I think on 4 points there that this is not something that is a pure of heart statement from these two conferences and from their league offices, number one. And number two, I believe that they count on you to not having read this bill and move on with your life so that they can put things out there. These commissioners are mad at what social media is going to erupt when you hear a word like Super League or otherwise, but they put things out on social media to make you mad too. Doug?
All right. So here's what I gather out of all of this. And look, we're destined for a NCAA civil war, for lack of a better word. I mean, there's a group, and it is those two groups that released that joint statement there, the SEC, and we're SEC country down here, Big Ten. It is what it is. Feel like they are far superior to everyone else. Does the cream of the crop go there? Does the big money go there? Are the big blue blood schools there? Absolutely they are. The problem is you have that mindset that the sum is not as great as the parts, or the parts is not as great as the sum in there. And so you're going to see a succession out of there, and you will create that super league. And that's what I see is going to come out of it. And you're going to, not to knock NAIA or D3 or whatever it is, but you're going to see a super group between the Big Ten and the SEC before all of this is over with. And I think that was just laying the foundation and the groundwork, saying, hey, look, we don't agree with all of this. And so here we are on record saying that. And it just wouldn't surprise me, because there's nothing that says that they have to tie into the SEC, into the NCAA. Look, if you come out of there and you break away with the Big Ten and the SEC, who's everybody watching? And ESPN and the networks, they're still going to go after those guys. They know that they control the money because they control the kids. They control the schools. Kids that are going to other schools all dream of being Big Ten and SEC kids. I mean, it is what it is. And, man, you're laying the foundation for a secession out of the NCAA. I really feel that.
Yeah. Now, if this bill passes, it will limit that opportunity.
Correct.
But
that's why they're not
in favor of it. So let me move on down. Let's actually see what this bill says. So I was going to put the entire bill up there, Doug, and it is so many pages that we'll just get lost in all of it. However, now, and this is where you have to take this with a grain of salt as well. So let's bring this up really quickly. This is from the government as well, which, Matt, let's go back to, or Justin, let's go back to, we're from the government and we're here to help. Let's bring this up. This is also from the U.S. government in regard to this bill. Well, hang on, let me scroll the right page there. This is a section-by-section summary. This is from .gov. Okay, this is from the Senate, and this is a breakdown of what each of these sections is all about. And you can see right there, I have on another window over here, but I'm not going to bring it up. You can look that up. It's not hard to find. Protect College Sports Act, and you can read the bill. Go online if you do want to do that. But here are some of the sections I want to talk about. So let's look really quickly here. Doug, according to section number 103, you have to register.
I've got to take mine off my Twitter page.
You have to take yours off your Twitter page, man. You have to register, and you have to be a certified agent to be able to get involved in those things. So that's a nice thing. Let's move on down here a little bit more. How about section 106? Doug, this is a good one. Division I schools are supposed to cover out-of-pocket medical costs for sports-related injuries and for 5 years after the athlete's final competition, too, if those injuries are of that nature. So I think that's a good part to the bill. That's not bad.
Do you and what it falls on is their final school. So if he was 3 years at
Yeah,
LSU and transfers to Tennessee, Tennessee's on the hook for the final 5 years.
that's exactly right. And you're right. That's a big point there too. So we'll get to that 5 for 5 here in a moment, and the transfers. How about 109? This one I think is this one. When they write the bill, this is what makes them look good, Doug. Okay, comparable standards for facilities, services, and events. Do you remember not long ago, and I'll pull the windows down here for just a moment. Do you remember not long ago when they showed pictures of the NCAA men's basketball tournament and they were basically in a palace, and then they showed pictures from the women's tournament and it was like somebody's backyard with just a little rack of basketballs and that was all they had? Which I thought that was a little bit over the top comparing those pictures. I understand they're not the two. They're not the same thing. They're a little bit different between the two, but I thought this is a part of the bill that's saying, hey, everything has to be equal. Doug, it's not all going to be equal. You're going to have more people attending the men's basketball tournament than you are the women's basketball tournament, and that's just the way it is.
It's 100%. And look, I'm not trying to get in anybody's business here, but that's exactly right. It's just not bringing the overall. Now, some occurrences it does, but you're not filling up like you're putting folks into Neyland or Tiger Stadium or all of these different events. Even baseball and softball is not doing the same. And as fantastic as Texas was, it's still not as a whole.
There's a difference between Omaha and Oklahoma City. I will say softball though, man, they did bring a crowd.
They do. It's gained so much support and so much love that it's really good to see.
Yeah, and that, by the way, that women's basketball audience was nice this year, but it wasn't the same without Caitlin Clark. How about number 110, mid-season coaching transitions, otherwise known as the Lane Kiffin rule? Prevents football coaches and key football staff from leaving mid-season to coach or otherwise effectively take over another FBS program during the same competitive season. Did you say we needed to go on, Doug?
Yeah, but look, and the bad thing is, I agree with that. I think it undermines football. It undermines these kids. What happened here between LSU and Ole Miss, and as much as I'm a Tigers fan, but okay, so, and I've already thrown my hat once, and that's why I've got the lids gone. But college football in the NCAA is not the college football that we grew up watching. All right, let's go back, and I'm very movie relate. You know that I like to use those as the way that I promote things. You go back to Rudy. All right, look at the movie Rudy. They're going to Notre Dame football, and they're following the Irish, and they're going through these legends, and these guys were all there in all of these movies, and now it's not. It's just come and go. And a coach leaving in mid-season, man, it's just part of the business. When coaches in the NFL started getting traded for, I thought that was garbage. But the coaches that are moving, it affects the kids. It affects everybody's lives.
Yeah.
But nobody has any accountability for it.
Well, if this passes, there's some accountability for that. So just something to keep in mind right there. Yeah, you're right, Tool Envy. You know why it's having trouble getting overall bipartisan support? There are a lot of people that think it's going to pass the Senate. I believe it's going to pass the Senate. I think the issue in passing this is in the House, but that's for another time. So let's go back up here. How about a couple more that I thought were worthy of bringing out? Number 112, here you go, Doug. Guarantees students one transfer without losing eligibility and establishes rules for additional transfers. So it's in there. It's in there. So it's not the Wild West of you get to transfer all over the map, all over the time, which takes us then to the next one, eligibility to participate in intercollegiate sports. Creates a baseline eligibility rules for college athletes. Okay? So it is in this basically the 5-year eligibility framework, beginning at 19 or high school graduation. There are exceptions. And I will also say this, Doug, before we get away from this one for just a moment. Let me bring the windows back up. The NCAA has already made adjustments. and I'm not saying they've voted on it yet, they've already changed what this is saying on their end. This week, they said, you know what, we have some stakeholders in baseball and men's basketball and hockey that say this should change, and it's actually adding a year farther down the line to make it to where we're getting back into kids can be 24 years old again. I mean, this hasn't even been voted on yet, and it's already being amended to go, yeah, but you know what? It's okay if it happens this year after they're 19.
That's where the problem lies, is the bill that is put together today. And this is why, look, there's a lot of good meat on the bones there, okay? This has a lot of great things in it, but I've seen too many red lines in order, okay, we'll do this instead of doing that. We've got to vote on it right now, so we don't have time to get it out there. It is way worse than the 5:30 Friday afternoon dump of information out there. Yeah. They'll do it you talk about the 11th hour is when they'll do these things. And you'll say, well, wait a minute. I thought we were voting on this. Yeah. We had to run. And you don't have time to go back and do these things. If they're already amending it and already making it, there's somebody else studying the loophole that's on there. Look at what Will Wade is doing in basketball at LSU. I know it's a different sport, but he's making a mockery of these international guys and these players coming in and building the roster on there. If there's a way to do it, there's going to be a way for somebody to put it into the face of the NCAA and Congress on there. And I just, it's tough.
Yeah, but this bill will limit that if it passes. Though I agree with you, Doug. And by the way, what the NCAA is doing is voting on their end, has nothing to do with the bill. And if you go back and go, but if you'd voted on this sooner, we wouldn't have to be dealing with this bill if you had taken care of business earlier, which they did not. And so let's bring the window back up a little bit more, Doug. Let's go. How about 118? Because the statement from the SEC and the Big Ten said, hey, listen, there could be a lot of lawsuits out there. Well, actually, this is providing protection for the schools, the conferences, and unfortunately the NCAA at this point to enforce the bill's rules for compensation. In other words, it's limiting their liability. It's saying that they're not going to be, in essence, tried for antitrust purposes. This is keeping the antitrust status. I don't know that I like that as much, but again, there's give and take in that. So there. All right. This one. This also directly goes in the face of the SEC and Big Ten statement. Relationship to existing law, Section 121, preempts conflicting state and local laws governing NIL transfers and eligibility while specifically preserving areas such as civil rights and tort and criminal, blah, blah, blah. This bill is being brought forth in the Commerce Department, Doug, and that's where the interstate commerce law says.
Correct.
These are federal laws, and they supersede state and local laws. It's right there in this law saying your state laws and your local laws are going to be superseded by this. In other words, you're not going to be able to say, you know, I really don't like this. I'm going to go find a state judge and rule against it and get 6 or 7 years of eligibility.
You can't do it.
I think it's fair.
Yeah.
And again, that goes back to the SEC and Big Ten statement saying, well, you know, it really didn't cover state and local laws. Yeah, it actually does. So anyway, there's that. All right, let's get into, by the way, one more here. Neutrality on employee or non-employee status. It does not say whether student athletes are employees or non-employees. I like that, number one, in that it doesn't say that student athletes will become employees. I'm not a fan of student athletes becoming employees, and I at least like the neutrality on it so that it's not in the bill. So, Doug, that was kind of a sticking point for me if they made student athletes employees. I didn't like that end of it.
Go back up the other way for a second to 120, that one, the whistleblower section. I'm reading.
This is very good. This is very good. Student athletes or anyone else can come in and say, look, this school, this conference is not doing right, and they're not going to be able to be penalized for it.
Yep.
I think that's a big deal. It's a good point, Doug. Let's skip down into the second part, the sports broadcasting. And this is big too. So section number 201, It updates the already existing Sports Broadcasting Act, which allowed for universities and conferences to pool their resources to get media opportunities, which I think that's good. Section 202, okay? This, that has to do with antitrust exemption. It's basically, it's saying it's like some of the other leagues that are out there. I wanted to go to Section 203, selling media rights. Doug, this one's a big one.
Yep.
It gives opportunity for schools and conferences to be able to pool their media rights, okay, and get a very big revenue income. But it also says that a portion of this has to go to continue to finance your women's sports and your Olympic sports. And I think that's something that's been lost in all this. If there is a Super League, and if it all does go to college football and possibly even men's college basketball,
right,
then everyone else is going to be left out. They're going to become club sports. There aren't going to be scholarships, and they will drift away and become a page in your history book.
You're already
and this
seeing
is saying that if you do this, if you do put these things together and you generate your revenue through media opportunities, a portion of this money has to go toward keeping these sports alive. And I like that.
Yeah, it just gives you what's happening. And I like that part of it. And as you're pulling out these parts, I was like, man, maybe I do like this thing. I just don't like comedy. That's all. But that's the beauty of this as you look through it line by line too. Otherwise, it's just going to be football schools, and that's great because we're a football country. But man, I've seen so much. Look, there's stories that we're doing right now, as a matter of fact, as it relates to track and field at these big schools like in LSU, that you would be surprised some of the stories and some of the things. And how, you think you make it on campus and you're at LSU and you're at an SEC school and you're going to run track and field for an SEC squad. But man, it's business as usual. It's shady there.
Yeah. Well, two more, Doug. I have two more. I'm not trying to convince you, Doug. I just want people to see what's in this bill, because in the immortal words of Nancy Pelosi, well, we're going to have to pass the bill to see what's in it. There's so many things wrong with that sentence. We should never be at that point as a country. You need to see what's in this bill. So here are a couple of other things I think that are important about that. Number one is Section 204, local broadcast access for football and basketball. Doug, have you ever experienced a local blackout in wanting to watch one of your Saints games?
Look, I'm a Saints fan for a long time. We got blacked out even some during the Super Bowl year. It's tough.
Okay, this is going to eliminate that, saying, hey, listen, you're not getting a local blackout. Some part of your market, and it's going to list out the markets, by the way. Every school is going to have to list out their primary market and some secondary local nearby markets, and there has to be some way to watch a game locally if you didn't show up in attendance at wherever, Baton Rouge, you name it. So
yeah, and that's we just remember the old Astros games would get that done. It's just you're used to seeing that because you didn't go, and you may live 100 miles from the place. And still you fall into that. But again, it's got to get back to that, what we grew up on, being able to watch it, being able to, you may have to tune your rabbit ears a little bit or put some full on top of it, but you can catch Ohio State and Michigan, even if you don't have ESPN, and that I like as well.
I like that a lot. All right, Doug, here's the last one I'm going to bring up. And I'm actually going to bring something out of the bill itself, Section 205 here. Prohibition on certain conference mergers and acquisitions. Bars certain large revenue conferences from consolidating with or acquiring other conferences. And in the bill itself, it actually lists that if your conference has a revenue of $1 billion, yes, Can you imagine, by the way, I'm sure the SEC and the Big Ten do, but revenue of $1 billion annually, you cannot combine with or acquire another conference if you have a revenue of $1 billion. So that's going to eliminate the potential of the quote unquote Super League.
That's right.
So I think that goes along. Now, granted, okay, let me say this to everyone watching. I picked and chose, okay, things I thought were good to highlight. Honestly, a couple of them were just boring. They really were. So I tried to get things that I thought were positive. There were a couple things in there I didn't necessarily agree with. Most of the things I brought out, I agreed with, and there's some other things. So if you wanted to go check this out again, do the search online, Protect College Sports Act, and just read the bill. And the government has it out there so that we're not going to try to pass something and then find out what's in it. Now, to Doug's point, and Doug, I'm going to start wrapping this up. I have just a couple more things really quickly, and we're already 36 minutes in. And I didn't say it was going to be a short show tonight, Doug.
That's correct.
But
you did. That's right.
I did not. But to your point, yes, there will be someone somewhere down the line at 11:58 who will try to put some kind of earmark thing in there. And granted, will it have to do with budget and money? Possibly. Will it have to do with allowing certain wildlife to be able to traffic in national parks and then be able to feed them certain foods on Saturdays? Yes, they will try to put something stupid in there at the last moment. Somebody will. But as it is right now, I think there could be worse bills.
Again, it's Lucy and Charlie Brown, Joey. It's the football. It's the pulling it away. And there's been so many times that we would go up, and here we are. We're running up. This time it's really going to hold it. And I just think Lucy is ready to pull the football away.
She did every time.
Yep.
And I'm a huge Peanuts fan.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big Charles Schultz fan, and I don't recall a time Lucy didn't pull it away.
I could go every genre, man. I've got every movie. I've got all kinds, whether it's Charlie Brown or Charles Manson. I mean, we can find a. Boy, that's a stretch. God,
wow,
dog.
You run the gamut there, Doug.
Okay. No, Charlie Bucket. Let's go, Charlie Brown or Charlie
Buckets. That's a little chocolate factory. It's a little closer to our show here, I think. If we can. Okay, one thing that Senator Eric Schmidt said that I did want to point out, and it talked about the media rights, and we could go back to that, but here's something that I think should be considered. You know, right now we're watching the SEC on ESPN. If you watch college football on national television, we're talking D1. I'm not talking about the fun things, and we get to actually watch the NAI on the Urban Edge Network, and we're talking D1 football right now. For many years, it was the SEC on CBS. Yep. Remember that? Those two logos were just intertwined. Mm-hmm. And now the SEC and ESPN, and you get Big Ten, I think it's on Fox a lot now. Yep. There were a number of other networks that had their, or conferences that had their network affiliation. Now, that didn't mean every single game was going to be on there, but for the most part, they had their choice to broadcast those games. What if, and I've heard Josh Pate talk about this a number of times, but it's in the bill too, and Eric Schmidt talks about this. What if conferences voluntarily, not mandatory because it's in there, it's not mandatory, it's voluntarily got together, and let's say the Big 12 and the ACC, who have kind of crappy in comparison media deals, combined and said, hey, listen, we're going to put our goods out there, and it doesn't have to be necessarily on even one or two networks. We could be on all the networks. Now, again, you can go overboard and say some of the streaming stuff that you have to pay for, I think that should be, I don't know. I don't like that. But if everyone could watch all the games on all the networks, Doug, the revenue from that, right now, the revenue that NCAA is bringing in from media is $4 billion, give or take. From the NBA, it's $8 billion. They get $8 billion annually. NCAA gets $4 billion.
There's no pay-per-view at all.
And there's no pay-per-view. But get this, Doug, and this was something they talked about it, and I've heard this from more than one source, so I'm using my journalistic prowess here, okay? Got a second source. If your mom tells you she loves you, get a second source. So I got a second source on this. The NBA has half the viewership of college football, but is making twice the revenue. How much more revenue is out there, Doug? There's tons. And what if all these conferences pooled their media rights to more than one network and said, hey, it doesn't have to just be ESPN that gets SEC every single Saturday. Maybe a couple of these SEC games are going to be on Fox or on CBS, but we've got it all set up. And you could be looking at not just $4 billion, but $10 billion or more. And everyone would win from that, because here's the deal. And again, Eric Schmidt said this, I'm using his words. Let's say the SEC and the Big Ten, well, they get about 67% of the eyeballs.
Right.
Fair? Probably more than that. But let's just say even at 67%. 67% of $10 billion is more than 100% of $4 billion.
That's correct. Yes,
I'm pretty sure. Let's see. Carry the one. Yes, I'm right.
Even Common Core days. That's correct. But it's the forest for the trees. You know, you look at what NBC did with Notre Dame. I mean, everybody wants just exclusivity, and ESPN wants that, and all of them. What a great concept if it would be to. But then you got to be careful about them going out and putting the SEC and the Big Ten just on everything. You know, it's got to be.
Yeah,
okay,
I mean, there have to be guidelines, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, if instead of thinking that you should own 100% of the pie, if you owned even 2/3 of a pie, but the pie is like 3 or 4 times bigger, you're getting more. Stop being so short-sighted and want to rule, everything. And anyway, all right, Doug.
I love it.
I think I need to breathe again, and I think I'm probably red. Am I red?
You are a little bit, yeah.
Okay, that's all right. Did we hit all the points? Because we're going to go to the point later on. We're going to get to the part of the show where we say, "What did you learn on tonight's show?" So I'm just throwing that out there. All right, let's move on. Should we move on?
I love it. I think look. It's going to be great to cover this over the next few days, few weeks that this comes around to. And man, I want college football, what college football was supposed to be, and not turning into a NFL all-star game.
No.
You know, I don't want it to turn into all-star weekend where nobody's competing anymore because it's just about the money. I
agree entirely. Hey, listen, by the way, if you're watching us on Midwest Sports Net or 446 Sports Tonight, thank you very much for watching. Tool Envy has entered the chat. I didn't give Tool Envy proper introduction tonight, but he's entered the chat as well. And thanks to Leo and Dave and Matt and Justin for being a part. If you're watching us, let us know in the chat, from where you're watching tonight, who you may be cheering for. Because, Doug, it is 81 days until Week 0 Thursday night. And I wanted to bring that up because there are some Week 0 games, and there are a number of Week 0 games on Thursday and Friday. Now, not just Saturday, which I know you've already talked about where you're going to be on Saturday up there.
Right.
We'll go over that a little bit later on, but let's talk about Thursday or Friday. So let's bring this up here. Non-Saturday games in Week 0. Man, what do you think about this lineup, and what do you think, and community, let's hear from you as well. What's the toughest game on here? I know what Doug's going to say right off the bat. I can just tell you I know what Doug's going to say. What's the toughest one on here? Let's break it down. Let's look really quickly at some of these games. All right. This is in alphabetical order from the visiting team, except for the Friday game. Carroll at MSU Northern. Doug, MSU Northern has struggled against Carroll. And matter of fact, the Saints have won the last 13. All time, Carroll over MSU Northern. The Saints over the Lights, 54-7. 61 games all time, and Carroll has a 54-7 edge. Northern last won in 2015, and that was back when the Frontier Conference was playing each other like twice in the season, so only one of 2 that year. Louisiana Christian at Northwestern State. This is a D1 opponent for the Wildcats. Doug, you going to be there?
Oh, you absolutely know that we'll be there. And there are a lot of local guys. So if you're not familiar with the Northwestern State program, a couple of years ago, their program halted mid-season. They had some off-campus events that caused the program to just cease. The coach then there is gone. Coach Blaine McCorkle is there now, and this is year 2. They broke a, whatever it was, 19-game losing streak last year when they beat Alcorn State, and that may have been only one of two that they won. They're recruiting a lot of local guys, but it's going to be closer than the experts appear if you're just looking at it. It's great for Northwestern. So if you've not, Northwestern State is in Natchitoches. If you remember the movie Steel Magnolias, that's where that was filmed. Oldest city in Louisiana, tremendous place to go there. Home, famous for their meat pies. But it's going to be a great weekend. And it renews a rivalry that hasn't been played since 1968. And you talk about, well, they're the most common opponent that they've had.
Yeah.
It is because they played a couple of times a year, every year. And sometimes if they had 4 games in a season, 2 of them were with Northwestern State.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten to that yet, Doug. It's Louisiana Christian's most often played opponent. They've played 36 times. Northwestern State has won 26, lost 7, and they've tied 3 times as well. So
that's right.
That was going to be a big one for Louisiana Christian.
It certainly is, and a lot of fun. And we talked to Coach Ben and Coach York and those guys that are over there, and they're not going up there just to eat meat pies. They're going up there to try to get after it and get a win. You know, LC returns 20 of their 22 starters from last year.
Yeah. Ended the season with a big win over OUAZ.
That's right.
Which we'll get to that in just a moment, too. How about Marion at Indianapolis? 2 teams from the city of Indianapolis. This will be the 3rd meeting between the 2. Indianapolis won last year 45-21. UIndy won 45-21. That was last season. But Marion won the 2 previous meetings. So the Marion Knights have an actually 2-1 series lead here over this Division II program. And by the way, UIndy no slouch either. We know Marion made it to the playoffs last year. Unfortunately, they weren't able to go any farther after an ineligibility issue. UIndy they're just constantly winning the Great Lakes Valley Conference in Division II. So that's a big-time game there at Indianapolis. It's
a tremendous one. And anytime you could get that type of proximity playing each other, I've got to think that just certainly it pumps the atmosphere of the crowd. These kids played against each other in high school. This is what you want to see. This is why you have these games. This is a great season opener, and it's going to be on a Thursday night too. So you have to think that a lot of college kids are going to be around. This one should be a well-attended game there at UIndy. Here's another Northwestern, the Northwestern College from Iowa, taking on Western Illinois. First meeting between these two. Northwestern has won 3 straight openers, Doug. The last time they lost was 30-29 against Morningside in the season opener, and Northwestern did not lose again in 2022, won the national championship. That's going to be a good one. That's a great start to it. That one should be good. All right. Hey, Toolendby. We know can get there in 45 minutes. Man, that's not bad. Yeah, you may have to go over and watch that one live. That one should be a pretty good game. I think so. I think if Coach McCarty, there were some quarterback issues last year at the start of the season. It started to rectify itself a little bit. If they have everything in place at the start of the year, I think this one could be pretty good. OUAZ and Montana Tech, one of those teams, both those teams had only one loss last year, Doug. Only one of those teams was a playoff team, though. OUAZ, 8-1. They lost the last game of the season to Louisiana Christian. Not by 60, but still lost that last one. Did not make the playoffs. Montana Tech did make the playoffs, and the Ore Diggers had a fantastic year last year, 12-1. And how about this for an out-of-conference Thursday night game in week 0? This one's big. Look, it is great to see, and that's the way. If you want to get out of conference and at large bids, and if you want to get this, you've got to go on this national stage against powers. And kudos to these two coaches for getting that game going and getting it on a Thursday night when there's only a handful of games out there. Man, all eyes are on you. Absolutely. Doug, you make the biggest point of all. That's been, I think, the biggest downfall for OUAZ is not being able to schedule out of conference as well as I'm sure they'd like to. And for other schools,
it's a lose-lose almost for a number of reasons. One, you're going out to Arizona. It's almost for sure going to be a flight if you go out there.
Right.
And then if you lose to a team from the Sooner Athletic Conference, which as a league hasn't yet won an NAIF playoff game. I'm not talking about the CSFL. I'm talking about since it's been Sooner Athletic Conference teams.
Correct.
They've made it to the playoffs. They haven't been able to win a game yet. So, why do you schedule OUAZ? Because you know it's going to be tough competition. Props to the Ore Diggers for making this, putting this on the schedule. Now, granted, it's going to be in Montana, but it's there. And Leo says, hey, that's his choice for toughest game on the schedule.
But it's in Montana in August, and they're not playing it in November, so that ought to be.
Well, that is true.
That ought to be okay.
It should be a flight one way or the other. That's right. That's definitely. Reinhardt at Lindsey Wilson. This one has a lot of potential, Doug. A couple of teams that were in the playoffs last year. Reinhardt 7-4 last year, but made it back to the playoffs after a year out, and that stopped a 9-year streak of playoff appearances. They were out in 2024, make it back in, winning the AAC, and taking on Lindsey Wilson, who was 9-3, made the playoffs last year. 3-3, the all-time record between these two schools, Doug. Lindsey Wilson won by a point, 23-22, back in 2022.
Look, it's this kind of game, and the one above it as well, that you have to get in there. When you've only got a limited number of at-large bids and conference championships aren't guaranteed, you got to get out there and measuring. I mean, how else is a 7-4 team going to make it into the playoffs? But that's a whole nother segment when those guys that don't, we're not.
Yeah. Well, and they won it last year. And you're, here, to your point, Doug, here's my take on this. I don't think the AAC is a given to Reinhardt. Some people think it is. I don't think it is.
That's right.
I think Pikeville has a very, very good chance to be back and be part of the discussion again. Pikeville had that rough start to the season last year, and it really they struggled from that point. But I will say on record, you have to watch for Kentucky Christian this year. You just do. You have to watch for Kentucky Christian this year. So if Reinhardt is able to go to Lindsey Wilson and pick up an out-of-conference win, that's a statement if they stumble in conference play.
That's right.
So, all right. St. Thomas and Cumberland, second meeting all time between the two. St. Thomas won 34-6 back in 2021. We had Rontavious Farmer on Midwest Sports Net a little earlier as part of our 50 States in 50 Days thing, the all-time rushing leader in Florida college football history. That's big names he passed.
Pretty big statement.
Yeah. I mean, the one that comes to mind to me is Emmitt Smith.
Right.
But he also passed Marquise Burgess from up the road at Kaiser. So, yeah, that's a big one. All right, Valley City State at Southwest Minnesota State. And these two teams, they've played a couple times before. Southwest Minnesota State is a Division II program now in the Northern Sun Conference. And Southwest Minnesota State 2-0 all-time against Valley City State. The last time they played, Doug, I was a senior in high school.
As was I.
1989. It was the fall of 88. And Southwest Minnesota State won 29-19 then, and 5 years earlier in 83 won 20-6. So this is I think it's a big non-conference matchup there for the Vikings. I think there's an opportunity there.
There is, and it's going to be great. And seeing teams that rekindle things that are several years ago, 35 years ago now, is great to see. When you said you were a senior there, and I said so was I saw 88. I wasn't, because that game is in the fall, and that's a whole nother crazy thing when people celebrate their 10-year reunion in a time that it's not. But that's another thing. But do you know what campus I was on in 1988?
LSU?
Northwestern State University.
Northwestern State. All right. So you're
class
of 88?
Class of 88, that's correct.
Well, okay. All right. Okay. One more, Doug. And Leo, he gave his vote. So let's hear from the community as we mentioned this last one. This is a Friday night game. Ordinarily, I will say Friday night should be reserved for high school. But if it's the only time you can get this game in for both these two teams, I am all for it on this Friday night. So community, let us know of these games, which one you think is a tough one. I'm going to tell you right now, I think this one This is the one I'm going to vote for. Dort at Indiana Wesleyan, both playoff teams last year. First meeting between the two, and Dort 9-2, Indiana Wesleyan 9-3 last year. Man, there is a lot to this one, a lot on the line.
Look, it's one of those. I'm glad it's not Thursday night. I'm glad it sits Friday night alone, where it can just be on its own stage, because you're right, it needs to be there, and that's a big of a game kicking off a season. As you'll find, a lot of the others, our game is great, and it's great to be there, but it doesn't have this, and they're a close second. I like the Reinhardt and Lindsey Wilson Dort Indiana Wesleyan. I think is our number one. If I had to vote on just the Thursday night games, though, I'm going with that Lindsey Wilson game.
Okay, that's fine. Justin says OUAZ. Tool Envy. Man, I don't have anyone on my side very often. Thanks, Tool Envy, for agreeing with me. I appreciate that. I think Doug wakes up in the morning and says, no, I'm going to find ways to disagree with Joey on this one. So.
100% I do. That's correct.
No, but I do like that. Coach Penner, Coach Rohde, a couple of coaches, by the way, that we'll hear from a little bit later on in the summer here on Midwest Sports Net. So we'll have our previews coming up. Doug, we're just about to the 1 hour mark. And as we wrap up tonight, I will ask the question, and I will ask this of the community and a few more folks that are joining the community right there. Let us know. Here's the question, Doug. What have you learned on the show tonight?
Man, if that AT&T or the iPhone is a struggle. Leo, we'll see you next time, buddy.
See you, Leo. Thanks for being on tonight, man.
Sure.
We're almost done, but thanks for being on. Yes,
that Congress, if it gets passed the way it needs to get passed, has done the right thing in getting some leadership. You're exactly right, Justin. I do. That's 100% right. I do. There's no doubt about that. That's it. That's just the old coach in me. But it's that college football is here, and that the NAIA is still the king in this. And you can say what you want about the NCAA. It's not college football anymore. It's business. It's the level 2 NFL. And so that's, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what I have learned, excuse me. I'm sorry, Doug. First off, just so you know, this one's behind the curtain a little bit, but Doug and I have had a little bit of a challenge communicating over the weekend because of my iPhone, and so I will just I'll throw that one out there. I'm not saying it's all my fault, but I do have the phone. Between now and this fall, Doug, Mrs. Midwest Sportsnet and I have said I'm going to have to upgrade. So that's just what's there. I'm going to have to upgrade. I think the thing that I learned from the show tonight, and I brought it in. So it's kind of it's kind of weird for me to say that, but I think the thing that I will take away from this one is just the fact that I think you have to read these bills. I think it's very important that it's really easy to make quick decisions, shoot from the hip decisions, and quick judgments without knowing everything that's out there.
Right.
And I think if you're an SEC fan and Big Ten fan and you read that statement of, well, we don't like this because this bill doesn't do all these things. I just read in the bill where the bill does all those things you just said. But if you didn't read that, then you don't know it. All you know is what was put online. And if you don't know anything about, Super League, they're going to form a Super League, and because Bavacqua said Super League, and boy, I'll tell you what, everybody melted down when he said that. But if this bill is passed, it keeps that from happening. And so I think what I take away from it is that we should do maybe a little bit more independent journalism, individual journalism, and get a second source on a lot of things, and not just go with that first, so-and-so on social media said it. Let's find out what's actually there and learn a little bit more about it. And I hope maybe we did that tonight.
Don't Shahan it up. That's right. That's what I just...
I made it through this whole show without mentioning Shahan, and you just put us in right before the 60-minute mark. Thanks.
It's after the 9 o'clock hour, though, so I was able to do it. So hypothetically,
Okay.
Look, I'll go back to something that I shared earlier too, and this will be it. And I don't often get this somber about things, but I'm thoroughly concerned about the shape of college sports. I'm thoroughly concerned about colleges. Do I think there's too many of them around? Absolutely, I do. But do I think that we need to be able to cheer for those guys that come on campus and are they're not going to be there for 4 years. The landscape has changed forever. But when you've got a guy that doesn't know which one his alma mater is because he's transferred to 3 or 4 different schools, if he even graduates on there, if you look at the 79.1% of guys that retired, it's not the same. Guys, find a school. Folks that are fans, find something to cheer about again in college football. If it's NAI, if it's Division II, if it's Division III, whatever it is, get back to what we love about college football, man, and it just needs to get fixed.
I admit that I don't like every single player that's ever played for Oklahoma University or Oklahoma State University.
Me neither.
Or my Tennessee Volunteers.
Right.
However, I still thoroughly enjoy cheering for a team and players and coaches as opposed to just cheering for the laundry that's on their backs. I'd rather cheer for people than laundry.
I'm going to share a Tennessee story with you real quick because I didn't realize you were.
Oh, look at the time. We have to go, Doug. I'm sorry. We're wrapping. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
You'll like this.
Okay.
Tennessee came into LSU 3 or 4 years ago, and we were covering the Tigers all season, and it was great. The year that they beat Alabama and they beat Ole Miss in there.
Yep.
Tennessee just skull drags them, and it's an 11 a.m. start. And so we were late on the air on a Friday night getting home. I'm at Baton Rouge by 7 o'clock that morning, and they're just getting curb stomped. LSU is in the game. And I got a buddy of mine calls and he says, does it look as bad in the press box as it does on TV? And I said, it's way worse because you get commercials. I got to listen to Rocky Top every stinking time there's a break. And I just couldn't stand it.
Oh, man. I got to tell you, it's a good thing I like Rocky Top. Because
right.
Going to Neyland and watching those games, Mrs. Midwest Sports Net and I haven't been in a few years, and we need to go back. But that's a fun one. All right, let's put this one here really quickly as we wrap up. Not learned, but confirmed. Congress has more important work to do. And yes, the blue dot is messed up, but we have more important issues. Yeah, you're right. We're from the government, and we're here to help, and that's scary. Man. But I will say, Matt, at this point, you know what? I made it through this whole show, Doug. There's my cough drop. At this point, I'm cheering for the Protect College Sports Act. I know you're not, and I know what can be done. But at this point, as of June 7th, I'm cheering for it because something has to happen. Because I don't want to lose college football or college sports as a whole. So.
Here's that moment. Joey, I agree with you.
Oh, wow. Where timestamp is 9:05 Central here on June 7th, so we'll do that as well. All right. Hey, Doug, it's been fun tonight. Really quickly, what's happening this week on 446 Sports?
We are gearing up for the season. We are already started working on our previews for LCU. Our high school previews start tomorrow. We've got another team we've added, so we'll have 7 teams in the fall that we cover, including Louisiana Christian University. So we're pumped up about that. But like Aerosmith says, all my bags are packed. I'm ready to go. We're looking for that week 0 Saturday game. That's when we fly and get up to see Morningside and Benedictine. That's going to be a lot of fun.
83 days from today on the Saturday, 81 away from those Thursday night games. Doug,
that's right.
It's going to be a good week on Midwest Sports Net, and 50 States in 50 Days continues this week. And I have some fun guests that are already locked in, some more that maybe. We have an NAIA legend that will be on, so I'm teasing that one. Right. That one should be either Tuesday or Wednesday. It may be Wednesday. And I have an NCAA women's basketball legend as well coming
How about
on.
that?
So this is going to be a lot of fun and more, lots more, because we're continuing our tour through the country. Lots of states already down. Check it out, Midwest Sports Net. I do have some other previews for football and volleyball coming up, but that's going to be a little bit later on into the month of July. So we're just going to continue our tour and celebrate our country's 250th birthday. So
Love it.
it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun. All right, for Doug Gann, I'm Joey McWilliams, and I want to give a shout out to all of you all, to Matt, to Dave, to Justin, Tool Envy in tonight as well. Leo, I know if you're still watching. If you're not, that's fine. Thanks for getting on tonight. Appreciate seeing all of you tonight. Dave, man, it was good to see you. I know I mentioned you already, so glad you were getting to watch from the very, very beginning. For Doug Gann, I'm Joey McWilliams. Next week, we do have another coach in-house virtually, and this one should be a lot of fun, so be ready for that. 8 o'clock Central Time. God bless you all. You guys have a great night. Thanks for watching college football this week.